We asked Mr. Gotsey about his favorite game. It was Zelda Breath of the Wild.
What is my favorite video game? I would say probably Zelda Breath of the Wild. I just finished it and I'm already kind of starting to play it again. It's just like such a great game, and I love the open world video games. I think those are probably the best for me. About Zelda Breath of the Wild? Not much. It's like being my favorite game. It's just like so much fun to play. So no, not a whole lot that I dislike about it. No, I really like the art style of it. I think it's just a really beautiful game to play, and it's relaxing.
My favorite video game of all time is probably the original Tecmo Bowl from the NES system. Madden of like my elementary years. It was the best football game that they could have put out in the mid 80s. So you had characters like Bo Jackson, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. Not really, other than not all the NFL teams were on it. It was limited a little bit, so.
Oh boy, well, I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, but back in the day whenever I was actually doing them, I'd have to go with any of the Madden games for football, for Xbox or anything like that, yeah. I've always just kind of been a sports guy first and foremost, and so I started playing with a Sega Genesis back in the 90s, and Madden was one of the first games there. And so then just as the game developed and got better, better graphics, cooler features, stuff like that, so that was just always kind of my favorite. I agree with it, but it doesn't mean that I probably should have a say or an opinion in the matter either.
My favorite video game is Super Mario. It was the first video game I ever played on a Super Nintendo that my neighbor boys gave to me, and it's the first game I ever beat. So I'm really proud of the fact that I beat it. Not really. I mean, I tried to play it again, like during COVID when we were quarantined, and I disliked that I wasn't able to beat it as easily this time around.
Okay, I'll say I'm not a huge video game gal, but growing up, I loved all Mario Super Brothers, Mario Kart. Also, I'd have to say the classic Tony Hawk on PS2. Well, I would say specifically I had an older brother and sister who had the Nintendo 64, so I am very used to that. And then I got the Wii when I was younger, and so we did a lot of group stuff, and I think that's why I like it, because it was a time where I hung out with my friends, my families, and yeah, played those games. I would say at that time, popular games, like the Tony Hawk game was very popular amongst my friend group. We all loved to do that. Same thing with Mario Kart, it was popular. I think it was a time where we got together, able to play these games, have fun. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Currently, right now, my favorite video game is Animal Crossing for the Nintendo Switch. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I always used to play Sim City, so I feel like it's an updated version of Sim City. But it gets my mind off of things, so when I've had a stressful day, I just would like to go home and catch fish and build my island. The rating system, the ranking, I've been building my house 3 stories, and I feel like my ranking still hasn't gone up. And I find that very tedious because I spend a lot of time on it. So the ranking system, I'm still trying to figure it out, even though I've been playing Animal Crossing now for about 2 years.
Okay. I have to start with my first video game. Video game systems didn't exist, so my parents got us they looked like little arcade games that were tabletop, and they used batteries. And the only 2 we had were Pac-Man and Frogger. And I ended up with Frogger, and my sister ended up with Pac-Man, I believe. And that was my first introduction to gaming. Then, as an adult, because we really didn't have any game consoles growing up, I bought my first gaming system. It was a PS4. And my favorite game on there, not that I didn't play others, I played Arkham Asylum, BioShock, Oblivion, all of those, but my favorite one, just because I played by myself a lot, was Little Big Planet. I liked the puzzle aspect, and Sackboy, and I did a lot of the courses in there, and So Little Big Planet was one of my favorites. When I played BioShock, that was probably my second favorite game. I would get so tense that when I was done, I was exhausted. So probably that's the one thing so I know when you're playing games, it takes a bit out of you as far as energy, mental, and even though you're sitting there, you're tense, and so it does affect your muscles. I think Little Big Planet is more like a puzzle. You're going through a maze, you're trying to figure those things out, whereas I guess BioShock is too, because you're kind of going through the underwater, but yet you're avoiding, you know, the zombie-ish things, and you're avoiding those kind of things. So kind of puzzle, but that one did have some shooting, so it's more of a first-person shooter-ish stuff. I know they're older, because I really haven't had time to play any of the newer ones.
Yep. My favorite video game is Mario Kart, on the Wii specifically. I just like racing games. I've never been huge into video games, but I always enjoyed ones where you're like, you can see down the track and kind of control where you're going. I just always found that fun. So that was just kind of like an extra fun racing game for me. I mean, the levels that are really hard, I dislike some of the like the extra hard levels, but overall, not really. I'd say it's fun. Yeah, again, I don't have a lot of experience with video games, so I would just put it into some kind of, I don't know, just a racing category. I don't know if there's anything else you would call it. Fantasy, maybe.